From Julio Cruz and Gaylord Perry to Alvin Davis and Harold Reynolds to father and son back to back bombs. From Junior J, Joey, and Edgar with Randy, A Rod, Dan, and the Sheriff to Ichiro Moyer and Mikey C to King Felix, Kyle Cruz, and Cano to the present with Julio, Gilbert, Kirby, and Cal. I don't believe it. It just continues. My, oh my. It's another sports podcast. My, oh my. It's another sports podcast. And my, oh my. It's been a really tough few weeks for our beloved Seattle Mariners. Nonetheless, we'll ride with this team through thick and thin. That's what it's like to be a Mariners fan. We'll rep this team from Nashville down to Albuquerque up to Little Lake Stevens and everywhere in between. Huge shout out to Nashville, Tennessee. Our super producer, Indy, rocking the ones and twos. He's the brains behind this operation, and we would be nothing without all of his hard work and effort. Check out Vaden Podcast Services. And of course, y'all know my co host. He is the certified boogeyman of Seattle Mariners fandom. What's going on, RG?
Pack it up, pack it in. Let me begin. I came to win. Battle me, that's a sin. I won't tear the sack up. Punk, you better back up. Try to play around, the whole crew will act up. But I need them to start acting up there in Seattle. But it's time to go to work.
Absolutely. And we kind of feel like the Mariners need to get to work right now because we haven't won a series since June 16th. So it's been over 3 weeks since the Mariners have won a series. I was looking a little deeper just into the last month or two, RG. The Mariners had a fantastic early June, 12-4 to start the month, but they finished June 4-8. We've been 2-4 in the month of July. Since that Texas sweep in mid-June, the team is 6-12. What are any of your opening thoughts on the struggles for this ball club?
Unfortunately, the fall back to earth has been rapid, and objects in our rearview mirror are closer than they appear. Shout out to the Twins for being able to help keep this lead what it is and keep Houston at bay for a little bit. We do go into this two-game swing now with the Padres. Hopefully, we can get down to Southern California, enjoy some good weather, play some better baseball. Um, but we do have a little bit of good news. The OG did make the All Star game, so it's not a complete loss for us as far as something to cheer for. But man, Julio finally started to turn his bat around. Then he gets injured, and we just seem to just be spinning our wheels in the mud right now. But still a lot of baseball left to be played. Maybe the All Star break is what's needed to get these guys some rest and some rejuvenation. But man, I'm telling you, you might need a Tylenol if you got them near because headaches are about to come if we don't start playing better.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to give a huge shout out to all the people on YouTube Live. We are having technical problems today with Twitch Live, so if you were logging on to Twitch, please switch to YouTube Live. YouTube Live, my oh my ASP. We love all of the people dropping knowledge on the chat line. Tommy already made me laugh while RG was talking right there, saying that he would give up on his wife panicking before the boys in blue. I feel you, man. And it's really crazy to think right now because myself and most people on social media are down on the team right now. But look at the standings. We're still in first place. But RG couldn't be more right. The Astros are breathing down our necks. Only 2 games behind us. We have a major series with them to open up after the All Star break. So it's put up or shut up time. I'm a type of person, I never, ever thought Houston was dead. Their pitching might be injured. It might not be as good as it's been in the past, but put up that lineup against ours. Put up that lineup against almost any team not named the Yankees. I'll ride with that lineup if I was a Houston fan. So to me, I'm not mad that they have come back because I knew they would. The frustrating part is that the Mariners were just okay over the last few weeks. It might be a 5, 6, 7 game lead. Like you said, RG, 2 game lead, and they're right there ready for us.
Our man Emmett Brown in the chat says, at least we won a game on the 4th of July, but losing a series to a Canadian team is just as good as treason. Man, just not the way you wanted to celebrate the 4th, not the way you wanted to celebrate coming into this. It has been a rough couple weeks. Shout out to our boy Mariners Lifer on the chat rocking with us tonight. You knew the regress was going to happen, not because the Mariners are a bad team, but just because that's the way that baseball goes. And nothing that we do is ever going to be easy. We're never going to have a season where we've run away with the division like we did in '01. That's just not in the cards for us. Not that we're not a good enough team, but again, that's just not the way that baseball works. We've had some unfortunate bounces. We've just had days where offense hasn't shown up. I still don't think we're getting the absolute best that we can out of Castillo, as much as that pains me to say. Um, if I had the answers on how to be able to fix it, I'd be blowing up the lines up there on the corner of Edgar and Dave. But we just got to keep rocking. That's all we can do.
Yeah, I hear you, man. And I'm usually a major Scott Service supporter, and I honestly still am because I just feel like this lineup is so flawed. He's grasping at straws already, and we're not even at the All Star break. He was highly criticized. I believe it was either Friday or Saturday's game where he put in Jorge Polanco for Josh Rojas. But I just want to remind y'all the reason that they started the platoons in the first place. Trust me, I would rather have an everyday stud, maybe Arenado in his prime, even a Mike Blowers for Pete's sakes. But that shit ain't
Mm.
happening right now, so you got to deal with what you got. But Josh Rojas versus lefties, a 115 average with a 322 OPS. No, I did not say 322 on base. I said 322 OPS. Polanco, we know how tough it's been this year. I cringe when he gets up to the plate, but he is hitting 222 with a 500 OPS against lefties this year. So to me, that makes sense. I think chime in on the live chat line. I would seriously consider putting in Ryan Bliss full time at second base. I mean, I'm just looking at the numbers. Our super producer and Indy and me were looking at it earlier. Ryan Bliss has a .4 WAR in about 27 games. Jorge Polanco has a negative .4 WAR in 55 games. So what I'm basically telling you is Polanco has played twice as much and has a .8 worst wins above replacement player compared to Ryan Bliss. He has been overmatched against some high heaters I've seen, but he brings speed, he brings range, and although it's a small sample size, he's been a better hitter so far. And before I throw it back to you on the low block RG, I'm just looking here. Sunday Evening Media talking about Polanco looks like a shell of himself. I can't even believe this is that dude. We were all so excited to trade for him. And it's not just us. I mean, guys on the MLB network that have played 10 to 15 years Major League Baseball were all extremely high on this trade. Everybody's been wrong. Sometimes that happens in baseball, but it pains me to say it because I was a huge Polanco supporter, but I'm with y'all, man. It might be time to pull the plug. Money matters, and we have an owner that pinches pennies, RG. And I feel that they sometimes baseball ops needs to try to prove to the owner why they're paying a guy so much money. But at a certain extent, that shit can't matter anymore.
I still remember where I was at when the trade for Polanco, I mean, the acquisition of Polanco came across the wire. It was 10 o'clock in the evening. I was driving my truck through University Park, Illinois. I saw the alert. Uh, I got excited. I started honking my horn. I remember blowing up our group text. Like, I can't believe we got a solid hitter. We can't believe we got a solid hitter. There was even talks of having an emergency podcast just to talk to about how excited we were. And here we are, the beginning of July, and just It's almost frustrating, but it's almost comical that whenever we finally make a move for a bat that we think makes sense, it then turns into the same old song. Why can't that guy come here and just live up to the back of his baseball card? I like Bliss. I do. I think that with the small sample size of appearances that he has had, he has played well. He has made some unbelievable plays in the field. That speed and that range is undeniable. But we still need to give that boy time to grow into. Sorry, I didn't mean to call him boy, but we still need to give that man time to grow into who he will become. I feel the same way with Locklear as well too. But the excitement and the angst and the anticipation that we all have had over this 3-year collective where we've been knocking on the door to only still have one playoff appearance to be able to knock that door down. We're just ready. The fan base is ready. We thought the players were ready. We damn sure thought the ownership team was ready. And it just looks like we're still trying to do more with reacclimation projects instead of opening up the budget to go get someone who can. And then, like I said, it's a slippery slope. We open up the budget, we give someone all kinds of money. They get here and perform, the pitchforks will still be right out. So we're
Y-
damned if we do, we damned if we don't. Hopefully we can. I still think that the All-Star break might be needed for us to just be able to hit the reset button, not so much on the season, but just to and then be able to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody that's grinding at whatever your occupation is. I know RG has been grinding his ass off, and he is a diligent stud for getting on the mic tonight. I truly appreciate it. But people need to decompress and stress on stress on stress. Even if you're a millionaire ball player, sometimes you just need to be able to kick back, relax, and get your thoughts and get your mind right again. And it's tough for me right now because the Mariners are in a really tricky spot because it's part of me is like if it goes completely sideways, maybe you could punt on the season. The fans might not be happy, but I want to see us get to a World Series. And if you need to punt on a season here or there to get to the ultimate goal, I'm down with it. But there's also human beings in the locker room. If we punt on this season, do you think that's going to entice a George Kirby, a Cal Raleigh, or a new all star Logan Gilbert to want to re sign with the team if we're in first place? We decide to punt on the season. I mean, there is a lot more going down the rabbit hole. A lot of fans, we get way too into the video game trade scenarios and the fantasy football trade scenarios because there's no repercussions from the human aspect of things. And that shit is absolutely real. We saw RGU referenced it many times. We had Kyle Seager and other members in the clubhouse breaking bats and in tears when we traded Graveman a couple years ago. Everyone, including myself, was about to throw a baseball at the TV when I found out that we traded your boy, motherfucker Jones, Paul Seawald. And so there's real ramifications for punting on a season. Now, we saw the guy, the apple of everybody's eye right now, Vlad Jr. And this is why I do like to watch baseball sometimes. And it's such a tough sport to play and to watch as well. Vlad Jr., 1 for 4 with the walk today. Doesn't look that great. But if you look a little deeper, he had a 75% hard hit rate today. 3 of his 4 hits were over 95 miles per hour. That's the shit we need. Someone that stings the ball consistently. He is totally bounced back from a slow start, balling out of control. He is going to be very expensive. And RG, from a Toronto perspective, if I'm in the Toronto front office, I ain't trading Vlad Jr. for shit. Yeah, we're in last place this year, but does that mean we just trade our franchise player just because we're having a bad year? I mean, they made the playoffs like the last 3 or 4 years in a row, basically. So it's going to be a lot harder to pull off than we think. Although we do have the prospects, and I know you're feeling on that.
We wouldn't trade Julio under the same circumstances.
No.
I think that internet following of baseball is funny. Um, we all met on Bleacher Report, and Vlad has one bad game, and we got guys in our fan base chirping at him. Oh man, we is what they say is what they say is, and Superb takes only the homie Josh. He was quick to remind someone. He was like, that guy's the starting first baseman in the All Star game for a reason, and we would love to have his bat in our offense. Then he goes out and does what he does. What I found interesting in going over the game notes, Garver had one of those games today where he hits a bomb, he gets a walk, he's doing the right things at the plate, he seems to be trending in the right direction. Guy is still 19 points below. I mean, sorry, the guy is still 21 points below the Mendoza line. That's just almost a catechism of where we're at this year, where we're doing the right things, but right now in this long stretch is just not translating into enough. And it won't be that way throughout the rest of the year. I definitely believe we'll be able to make a push to get us to where we need to be. But man, I'm telling you, if it's gonna be painful, I hope you have a drink ready. Hope you got some herbal medication ready, because this thing might get a lot closer before it begins to get shiny like it was. The homie Jay Z had the song "Was All Good" a week ago, and we had, well, let's go back to 3 weeks. We had ourselves a healthy lead. We were playing good ball. Everybody below us was faltering. Houston got hot, we got cold, and now we sit here where we sit here. And just like with Tigers coming down the back nine on a Sunday and you got a one shot lead, you're trying not to pay attention to the noise on the course, but that roar is undeniable. So we already know that there's a championship medal team, whether you want to agree with it or not. Yeah, they cheated, did whatever. Even if you know it's coming, it's still hard to hit a 99-mile-an-hour fastball, even if the pitcher was to look at you before he throws the pitch and goes, "Hey, fastball coming." Still kind of hard to be able to do. Still got to perform and put the bat down. So we need to be able to try our best to keep them at bay. They are fire tested. We're searching. So buckle in, get your popcorn ready. It's going to be a really interesting ride the next 2.5 months.
Oh, absolutely. I just want to piggyback on what you were talking about with Garver, because there's no way I can argue that his batting average is nothing short of atrocious, because it is. But you've made so many good points about him this year, and the stats have played out in the month of June. I'm not talking about April and May, but just the month of June. Mitch Garver only hit 187, but managed to pull off a 779 OPS, which is really damn good. And as you've alluded to many times, for the most part, good at bats, drawing walks, and supplying some power. And that's what we need. Now, we look back to kind of the steroid juiced era with Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa and Mark McGuire leading the way. That kind of skewed what we look at OPS in totality. But I just want y'all to know the major league average OPS right now is only 707. It is only 707. So if you're even able to have a month at 779, you're doing freaking work out there. And huge shout out to Luke Rayleigh though, because although he had a slow start, he's actually kind of struggled a little bit lately. In he put together a really nice May and a really nice June with an 828 OPS in May, an 857 OPS in June. Where would we be without Luke freaking Rayleigh? And Dominic Canzone actually had a good month of June, even though he had a really rough start to the season. I think a lot of that was you get injured early, couple games into the year. You don't even get your feet under yourself before you're already struggling. But for June, he hit 268 with a 770 OPS. So he's had a nice month of June. But my big question is Victor Robles. Extremely small sample size. He's barely gotten to play, but When he's been in, he's been pretty damn good. And RG, sometimes guys that feel the weight of the world and so much expectation from the organization, Jared Kelenic doesn't turn it around till he's traded out of Seattle. Victor Robles might never have been able to turn it around until he was traded away from the Washington Nationals. And now he's as far as he could possibly be from that organization. The talent has always been there. He's still only 27. Is it time to maybe give this guy some more run? Because he's playing good ball when he's out there.
We're down to experiment. Be down to experiment with anything. Keep him in the lineup a little bit more. Give him some at bats. Be willing to be patient with the give and take, putting him in certain positions that we may want to get another player some of those at bats, but he is performing well when he does get in. Be willing for the give and take. Be patient and let's get him some run. I talked about Julio that I felt was pressing a few weeks ago, and just the enormity of his contract, the enormity of him being the face, trying to do what he can to get out. And once the flip switch for him, he's been playing well. Granted the injury um, that he just sustained. I'm sitting here looking at run differential and what we scored to what we've allowed. We're at a +4 run differential, which is pretty good considering we were at a -8 a couple weeks ago. But if you look on down the list in the teams in the AL West, the Rangers are at a +8 run differential, and they're 6 games below 500. I think that we have gotten extremely lucky playing the brand of baseball that we play to even have this lead or even be in a position where we're competing for the division. You look at the stats in the AL East. Orioles have a 106 run differential. Yankees got a 101 run differential. In the AL Central, the Guardians are 97. Twins are over 50. The Royals are at 56. Only team that has a comparable one to us would be the Mets in the NL East, and they're at 44 and 44, playing 400 baseball. I It's mind-boggling that we had that type of lead that we had, not being able to produce runs. But I think that that just shows the strength of those guys on our pitching staff. That our pitching staff is our bread and butter, and they're going to be the ones that are going to carry us. And God forbid that they keep having these slip ups. I need to see more for Castillo. Reading some of the comments here in the chat and said we should have been patient on Julio's contract. Absolutely, absolutely. But hindsight is also 2020. At the time that we gave it to him, we was all high fiving that we had him locked up, not realizing it was as it played forward, we weren't going to be able to piece necessary proven pieces around him and go back to these reacclimation products and hoping that other guys from the farm system can come up and perform. To be a fly on the wall in those rooms to hear those conversations would be extremely interesting. I would love to see what it is we're going to do moving forward. But again, the fan base is screaming that the time is now, do something. And unfortunately, Scrooge McDuck ain't going to give us a dollar.
I just noticed something that was really interesting, and it's from the live chat with Emmett Brown, and he's asking about any good managers or manager prospects he's done with Scott. And everyone knows I'm a Scott supporter, but sometimes relationships just run their course. And he's been our manager for like 8 or 9 years now. And if we end up relieving him of his duties, I don't think he would deserve it. I don't think it's fair. But this is freaking pro sports, man. Bill Belichick's been fired twice. Andy Reid's been fired. Pete Carroll's been fired like 3 or 4 or 5 times. Go on. Lou Pinella's managed like 5 or 6 different teams. So this is pro sports. It's not always going to be fair. And I've been such a Scott supporter, and I'm finally starting to lean the other way, even though on social media I defend his decision making often, because lots of people need to look at batting splits and realize that some of his decisions are actually very sound. But my huge one is Joey Cora. Homer take, yeah, I'll let that roll. But I want to drop a little knowledge here, though. This guy has been coaching for basically 15 plus years. He had a media hiatus between 2012 and 2017, but he's never left the game of baseball since he retired as a player. He was the right hand man for a World Series winning Chicago White Sox. He's been a bench coach and third base coach for the White Sox, Marlins, Pirates, Mets, and Tigers. And he is obviously a bilingual player, a Puerto Rican. I just feel there's so many positives. He's got a plethora of experience. We're not just bringing in JJ Redick off a podcast here. This dude has paid his dues. He has been a double A manager, even double A manager for in the Pittsburgh system about a decade ago. Joey Cora has absolutely paid his dues, and I feel that there is something to maybe having a bilingual manager in today's era when you have so many Latinos kicking ass and taking names. I think he would be a wonderful fit if we want to go managerial prospect type of route.
Don't disagree with anything that you said. I just am of one of the thinking that right now, any move that's not directly affecting the offensive side of this ball could be detrimental to us, even if it is letting go of Scott. 50-50 is the pulse that I get. There's a lot of people who defend the decisions he makes. There's a lot of people who think that they're boneheaded. Shout out to the homie RC 0710. He is never going to forgive Scott Service for putting Robbie Ray in against Jordan Alvarez. Um, Tommy in the chat says we need to hit Scott with the Pete Carroll exit. Again, that took place after the season, and I'm not even a Seahawks fan. The energy needs to go into being able to figure this out and not to divide the clubhouse. Again, with the midseason trade where you're going to trade the heart and soul. But again, to be able to acquire what we need, we're going to have to give up something that we love. Just have an answer for me. Have an answer for me. Don't give up the heart of our staff and some good prospects to go get me Heathcliff Slocum. Have an answer for us. That's what we need. It's what we it's just so frustrating that again we're here again and shout out to Emmett Brown that says agreed it feels like we're 5 games down instead of 2 games up. And it really does. It really does. A shout out to those guys in the clubhouse for keeping morale the way that it is, that it doesn't visibly look like they're pressing and they're dreading the worst that happens. They're doing a lot better than a lot of us in Fan Nation are. Um, just would love to be able to see what we can do if we actually go out and make a move. Who we make the move for, I still am a little unsure about. But something has to happen. We're not going to be able to maintain this the way that it is. The pitching staff can't just carry this load by itself. We definitely need more production from some of these guys who are beginning to taper off. Scary times coming.
Yeah, I hear you, man. And you know what? It sucks. It sucks for me because I'm gonna have to eat a little crow here. But Ryan Stenek has been a lot more up and down than how I was portraying him when we first signed him. I still think he's a damn good reliever. He gave up the 3-run bomb today, but only the batter was technically his run. But when your bullpen gets injured, we've traded off a few guys in the last few years, obviously. Really good guys. I am pounding the damn table to bring up Carlos Vargas from AAA. I mean, I've been calling him Munoz's little brother since we acquired him this off season. I believe it was in the trade with the Diamondbacks when we sent out Suarez. But I mean, this guy throws 100 miles an hour. He has a 2.36 ERA right now in AAA. I know he's a little wild, but you know what? Put 99 under a dude's chin and see how they're going to react, man. For real. I don't want a piece of that. I don't want 89 at my chin. Shit, let's be real. I don't want 79 at my chin. I'll keep it real. So I think it's about time to bring him up. You can always start him in lower leverage situations. Then maybe we get Santos back, and maybe all of a sudden we have four guys that can throw nearly 100 miles per hour at the back of the bullpen. You mention it so often. We put so much pressure on our pitching staff right now, RG, because of our lack of hitting. And pressure might make diamonds, but it's also going to burst pipes. And even the best pitchers can only dominate for so long before we lose games that we shouldn't. And Sunday afternoon, that's a game the Mariners got to fricking win, dude. We
Yes.
had three straight innings with the bases loaded and didn't score a damn run. All we needed was one. In those three opportunities, we just needed one. You win the series. You feel a lot different going into Monday. But here we are. And as shitty as it's been the last few weeks, y'all are right, though, man. We're still in first place, man. So I'm glad that we have the leaders and the mentality we do in that clubhouse. I just wish those leaders like a JP and a Mitch would start hitting.
Which Mitch? Oh man, I would like to see a little bit more out of Garth Haniger. Like to see a little bit more out of Haniger. I don't think he's going to have the year he was having when we were in his contract year, where he hit what was it, 35 bombs. Um, I think that the tide has kind of passed him on that, but would love to at least see a little bit more production out of him. Um, Cal has been Cal, and the thing that scares me about Cal, as you said earlier, if we aren't able to put together a playoff run this season, and then we falter again next season, I'm not sure how many more years he has, but that guy's a Boris client. He's out. He's out. I don't think that the new generation of the way that players think, and it's not just so much them. I would do it at my job, where if the organization isn't putting us in a position to do and be better, I don't want to waste my time here. The iron is hot. The iron is hot. We need to be able to move forward. We're not going to have to steal for much longer. He's getting up in age. LOG's the OG. Maybe he's the one that's loyal to the crew, but again, the better he starts doing, the more money offers start coming. Kirby's a young shining diamond that start flourishing in this game. He's going to be having people come his way. I personally don't think that Kyle's going to resign when it comes time for it. It's time for that dude to get paid. I know that everybody talks about Reichman, but I really do think that Kyle is, if he's not number one, he's two right behind Reichman and the best catcher in the American League. We don't want to be in a position where we are wasting primes of these guys' career. Go out and show them that you give a damn and make a move to be able to do something. To comment on what you were talking about with Vargas, Tommy says he likes the sound of Minnie Munoz. Anything that's able to help us. That spark can come from anywhere. Find it, but I just don't think it's going to come from us going after a guy who hit 300 4 years ago, hasn't done anything since, and then, hey, you know where you'd be a perfect fit? The Mariners.
Mhm.
Just, oh man, you can hear the frustration in my voice, and I'm trying to be able to better articulate it. But for the love of Christ, make a move and do something. We have to. We have to. We'll definitely see how these two games go against the Padres. And it's kind of interesting that we're in this series to me with the Padres right now, because when they went crazy and spent all that money, our fan base was screaming, why aren't we doing the same thing? Spending all that money hasn't done shit for them. And of course, that came on top of Tatis getting popped for steroids as well, too. Now we'll go out and see how it is that we match up against that team. And to see, to look at kind of the mistakes that they made, us not making the same mistakes. But I think that offensively they're built a lot better than we are. Even with losing Soto, I still think that offensively We we definitely can make some things happen, but those decisions are up to a man who doesn't really want to invest in his product. I just wonder when he was on the board at REI or Costco if he would do the same thing to them, the same way that he strangles us.
Fair
Got to
enough,
do
man.
something.
I was really disappointed doing a little internet reading recently, and that's because, as a lot of you know, if you follow major finance at all, Jeff Bezos just sold this week or is about to sell about $5 billion worth of Amazon stock. And of course, I was chatting with a dude on Bleacher Report, and we were just like, man, how cool would that be if we ended up with the richest owner in all of baseball, which Jeff Bezos would be. But when I did a little research on it, I got disappointed, which is funny because I am also a diehard Seahawks fan. But it looks like Bezos is moving money because he wants to buy the team, which the Seahawks will probably be up for sale in a couple of years. There's some lease stipulations with the King County and the city of Seattle where it's extremely punitive if the Allen family sells it before 26 or 27. So it's not going to happen until then. But I got my hopes way up in the sky, RG, thinking that, you're right, money doesn't solve all your problems, but they sure as shit can help you. And so we might be able to put that to bed for the guys I was chatting with that it doesn't look like Bezos has any interest in the Seattle Mariners. And honestly, I don't know why he would because the finances of baseball are messy right now, to say the least, with all the local sports networks, and the NFL is just printing billions day after day. So we'll see what happens with that one.
Well, the NFL is able to do that because Amazon and Netflix and everybody in the world is throwing the bag at them for their product. And it just interests me when you were talking about that, where I thought about if I was in his position to acquire something, the thing that I would go out right now and buy this up for sale would be the Boston Celtics, not the Seattle Seahawks.
Mm.
Um, but that's neither here nor there. Do we need a change in ownership? Emotionally, I would say yes. Realistically, the team is turned profit. So what is his end game? Is it is it his bottom line or is it to see his product succeed? With us being in the mix we have been for the last 3 years, he's making his money and he's not having to spend a lot of money to make his money. In business, that's almost like a golden, it's almost like a golden goose. So for us to for him to dig into his pockets a little bit better is outside of the scope of the way that he's wanting to move. I won't completely call him Donald Sterling, but it seems the way that he's managing his team and his finances is almost out of that playbook. What's the best I can get for the cheapest I can get? Have these guys on sheer will and determination keep us into the mix. And when everybody gets to screaming about we need a player, I'm going to renovate the bar upstairs. I'm going to buy the building across the street and turn it into an entertainment complex. Um, when everybody was screaming about the lockout a couple years ago, I told someone, I said the ownership in sports now is to be able to develop the area around your stadium because you can make money off of that 365 days a year compared to the 82 baseball games, the eight home playoff game, the 8 game regular season in the NFL, um, 41 games in basketball. When you build a new stadium, I don't know if you noticed, but when you build a new stadium, you get a Super Bowl, you get the CFP National Championship, you get a Final Four, and you get a WrestleMania. That's money that the billionaire is making that he doesn't have to invest back into his product. because it's all about his bottom line. We got the All Star game. We got eyes in Seattle. From what I've heard, I haven't been up there in 3 seasons, but the area around the stadium is popping. If he's making his money without having to invest in the product, how do we shake that? What is it going to take to be able to get him to do that? Um, I just really think we're in a tough spot, yo, for real.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why we can have all these frustrations with Jerry Dipoto and what him and his front office has done. But before we go wanting to fire him right away, the real question I got to ask all fans is, RG, would a premier general manager want to take this job?
Would you want to go take a job where the fan base is constantly chirping at you to be able to make it do something and your hands are tied financially because your owner is doing better in other fields of his investment than he is on the actual baseball product? Would you, and if we did, Brian Cashman's job doesn't seem like that's something I would want to do. Our city is too bougie to have a full boycott, Emmett Brown says. I I really thought that we were going to be in a position where fans were going to start screaming and kicking things down, but you tell me how well that's worked in Oakland for the A's right now too.
Mhm.
We definitely don't want those problems. Um, I don't know. I don't know if it's a flashy general manager that's necessary if the owner's not willing to pull the trigger. And
Mhm.
then recently, that graveyard is full of teams whose owners were willing to pull the trigger and nothing came of it. Look at the Mets.
Yeah.
Tough to say.
That's a great point with the Mets right there. And I just decided to take a quick gander here at the team payrolls right now in baseball. And this is the list of 9 teams in front of us in spending. The Mariners are at 18th in payroll. The Mariners are at 18th in payroll right now. The teams in front of us, the directly in front of us, the Giants, the Rangers, the Red Sox, the Cardinals, the Angels, the Diamondbacks, the Padres, the Rockies, and the White Sox. Now, okay, we'll give props to Arizona because they made the World Series last year, but only two of those teams in front of us are over 500 out of the 9 teams directly in front of us in terms of payroll. You got the Cubs up there at the sixth highest payroll. They got the Mets there at second. So you just brought up such a great point, RG, is because I get caught up in this too. You can spend your problems away, but that doesn't necessarily work in baseball. And let's just go back to the Yankees dynasty in the late 90s, early 2000s. What did we first talk about if you really remember those teams? The core four. The core four of Jeter, Posada, Pettit, and Mariano Rivera, all
I would add
four
Bernie.
homegrown
I would also
players.
add Bernie.
Oh, that's damn right. Oh, it's a shame that we call it the core four. It should obviously be the core five right there. Bernie came up earlier is probably why he wasn't included in there. But Bernie, if there wasn't a guy named George Kenneth Griffey Jr., might be the preeminent center fielder of his era in the American League. Great fucking point, RG. That's why I love having a co-host on this thing to drop knowledge to help me understand what's going on. But look at what I'm saying is the Yankees started their dynasty homegrown, then they spent major on other pieces and spent major to retain those players. So it's got to be a happy mix because nobody wants to be the New York Mets with the richest owner asking what the hell is going on when I'm spending $300 million on payroll.
I The Yankees dynasty of the late '90s was something unbelievable to watch, and to they won three, got to a fourth, a miracle from the Diamondbacks and Luis Gonzalez kept them from getting there. Then they go through that stretch where they then flip flop places with the Red Sox, and the Red Sox go on their run. And the Yankees, I believe, sneak in there in 2009 and get another one. For all their spending since the century has turned, we're talking one title.
Mm.
That is crazy to think about. What kills me, and I'll give a shout out to Tommy here. Whatever the Orioles are doing to develop their hitters, we need to get on that train. They were a 106 loss team 3 seasons ago, and now they've almost have become the premier team in the AL East with all those massive payrolls. Other than Tampa not being able to compete with them financially, Tampa's had a good stretch of making the playoff constantly. I remember posing this question when the season was over. The first time I met you on this format. If the next 5 years of Mariner baseball mirrored or closely mirrored what Tampa had done the previous 5 seasons, that includes making the playoffs, a World Series appearance, but it doesn't include a World Series win, would you take it compared to us always struggling to find a way to avoid mediocrity? And I don't think that we're a mediocre team right now, but there's something in the mix. I remember my grandma talking about when she first moved out here to Albuquerque from Texas. And my grandma's from the South, loves to bake, especially loves to make that 7 Up pound cake. When you move from Texas to New Mexico, what you don't realize is that you're moving into a region up here in central northern New Mexico where your elevation is a lot different. And the way that she was making her mix, she couldn't keep her cake from falling. And it took her months. Now, of course, we're talking about in the 50s, long before the internet. It took her a couple months to realize that it was something in her recipe that was causing the cake not to be able to rise and always fall due to cooking in the elevation. Once she figured it out, woman went on to win competitions for 20 years having the best pound cake in New Mexico. It's something right now in the way that we're mixed that's not going to allow us to get to where we want to be, to make things a lot easier, where we're constantly scoring runs, where we're having great pitching performances, where we can look at the stats halfway through the season to have a run differential over 100. What that mixture is, I can't seem to tell you because if I knew, I wouldn't be sitting here on the podcast. I'd be up there in the office in Seattle. I would love for us to be able to figure this out, but something has to give and something has to change. I for one, am getting rid of some of the prospects we have if that's what's going to help get us some proven major league players to get us over the hump. But I also can't sit here and tell you that that's the bottom line answer either.
Well, here's the beauty of having the second best farm system in baseball, where you have 8 dudes now in Baseball America's top 100. RG is you can technically have your cake and eat it right now. You can move a few pretty highly ranked prospects that are coveted across Major League Baseball while also maintaining. Obviously, you're going to drop for number two, but you can still maintain a young core of that next wave in 2 or 3 years. So to me, the Mariners are in an enviable position where if they choose to do so, they can have their cake and eat it. And then we look at, okay, so Cole Emerson and Cole Young, arguably our top 2 dudes. They're both shortstops. Do you play 5 shortstops like 5 offensive linemen? No, you don't. So trade one of those guys, keep the other one in your back pocket, and maybe you have the best of both worlds right there. And then Tampa Bay Devil Rays, they desperately need catching help. I know we're worried about losing Cal Raleigh, but you know what will make Cal Raleigh want to stay more is if we make moves to try to win some damn playoff games. Harry Ford, highly coveted. highly coveted, one of the top catching prospects in all of baseball. Your boy now, because I know you love what he did in the WBC. But there you go. Tampa Bay has a bunch of hitters we would love to get. They're a team we trade with all the time and scratch each other's back. We need a proven hitter right now. You need catcher. Let's do it.
Shout out to Sunday Evening Media in the chat. He said, yes, I would take that Rays 5 year swap. My grandfather would have gotten a chance to see his ends play a World Series before he passed in October 2022. Rest in peace and shout out to your grandfather, the legend. That flag that sits above my shoulder was draped over my grandfather's flag, the World War II veteran, in a time where people who looked like us weren't even supposed to be in the military. Man didn't care. He wanted to go give his damn for his country. So shout out to your grandfather. Tommy says I would also take a race swap as well too. And then we get to the point where we're talking about we can't afford to tread water anymore. We have to start swimming. I'm with you guys. I'm with you guys. We're ready to get off this boat and get to shore. But the captain of the boat seems to just want to have us drive around in circles. But again, it's very intricate. Do we blow up? Do we lose? Do we give away? Do we do what we think that is going to take as a fan base? And then the ultimate kicker is what happens if it doesn't work out? But I was also told too that scared money don't make money, and it's time to take that risk. It absolutely is time for us to make a move to be able to get to somewhere. If you don't, what are you telling the people who come out and spend their hard-earned dollars to come and support your product?
You don't care. And that's what Mariners fans are worried about, bro.
Absolutely.
I just
Absolutely.
I'm gonna give a huge shout out to all the people on the live chat right now who are talking about taking some really shitty years to actually build up a World Series, real World Series type of run. And I just remember being at the bars in a section of Seattle when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, dude. And it was something I've never experienced before. I haven't experienced it since, man. But I'm not kidding. We are high fiving and hugging complete strangers on the road constantly. An hour or two after the game had ended, we are still hugging and high fiving complete strangers, and that's a feeling you cannot get unless your favorite team wins the chip. And so I just want to say how fun that was and just the camaraderie. We talk about the camaraderie, man, and that's that shit that you can't buy. No money can buy camaraderie in a community. God damn it, it's about time, bro.
I can't wait to dig into my Southwest frequent flyer account, overpay whatever points they want to get me on a flight to Seattle. And what do y'all call it? Pioneer Square down there that's by the stadium. I
Yep.
can't wait to be down there popping bottles, taking shots out of someone's bottle of Thunderbird that they've had since the 70s, just waiting for this moment. I hope nobody from my job is listening, but I'm telling you, I might even smoke some sticky while we up there celebrating this thing. I can't wait to be a part of that. Just somebody throw on some Pearl Jam or some Nirvana, and we just lose our fucking minds for hours out in the streets. I can't wait to be a part of what that celebration is going to be like in Seattle the day that we hoist that trophy. But I also don't want it just to be a dream. I want it to be reality. And in order for us to make that reality, I need somebody in that office to spend some damn money and get us some proven talent. We can't just keep wasting this thing. I completely agree. We can't tread water into this thing. We need to swim. We need to swim.
Absolutely. I want to give a shout out to Sunday Evening Media. He's talking about his grandpa and his family story and whatnot. And this is as real as it gets, RG. I guarantee you, if the Mariners won the World Series, I would start crying like a baby. And it wouldn't just be for the Mariners. This is like I'm like in a family of Mariners fans, man. And all four of my grandparents and both of my parents have all passed away now. And the reason I would start crying was just be because I know how badly my grandparents and my parents wanted the Mariners to even make a World Series. And it's these sort of moments, Sunday evening media, that would. I know I'm not the only person that would feel it's more than just the Mariners winning a baseball series. You feel it with your family and your community and your friends and your loved ones. And the parade would be insanity. Oh my God, I'm sure it would be. I had to work the day of the Seahawks parade, and at the time, I lived in the Fremont area of Seattle, which is so much in north central Seattle. You would never think that you would have a problem finding parking when I got back to my apartment from the parade being downtown Pioneer Square area. I couldn't find shit for parking that day, and I work a lot of overtime. I probably wasn't home till like 8 o'clock or later, and I still couldn't find parking in that area. It would be an amazing thing. But RG's right. Moves need to be made, and I can't pound the table enough. The Mariners have enough prospect depth we can trade and hoard at the same time.
I go back to watching YouTube clips of Cubs fans in 2016, where you got generations of just people who never thought they would do that. And then there was a huge outpouring from people whose, excuse me, whose grandparents are no longer here, whose parents are no longer here, whose aunts and uncles are no longer here. And there were people going to grave sites with Cubs World Series banners and things like that. I can't wait to be a part of that. Um, and then I just look at some of the teams who have magically been able to put together a season where they can compete for it. New Mexico is south of Colorado. Denver is a relatively easy drive to make. To even know that the Rockies have been to a World Series, the Nationals have won a World Series, the Marlins have two of them things. Tampa's been to two World Series. What is it that we're missing in being able to put that mix together to get us there? Emmett Brown, this might be a foolish suggestion, but could we get anything for Dumper if he's leaving next year anyway? If I'm in the front office, and it's just because of the way that I think that all possibilities have to be on the table at this point. You could hear it in his frustration when he made the magical comments after the Rangers clinched and we were eliminated. That he wants to be a part of an organization making a press to be able to get there. And I think that he's given us the best that he can. I'm overly happy to have Cal Raleigh a part of this organization, but I also don't can't hold you. You know, if I live in New York, I tell you right now, I can't hold you, and I just don't want to also see him just waste the rest of his talent waiting around, seeing what it is that we're gonna do to try to help put some better pieces around him. Shout out to Julio. Shout out to Rojas. Shout out to the guys who are out there performing and doing everything they can. You know, the guy who, in my opinion, is the captain of the squad, JP. But we're also handcuffed as well too. So what we're trying to do is still second base and keep our foot on first, and I don't think that the two were possible. But if we really wanted to make something done, now we were talking earlier about making a move that splits the clubhouse. You take Cal Raleigh out of that clubhouse right now.
Ooh,
Angels have a better
mutiny.
shot than we do. Angels have a
There'd be a
better shot than we
mutiny.
do. They'd burn. They'd burn that thing down. They'd burn that thing down. Um, Mariners Lifer, I think the return for Dumper would be sweet. Add in Harry Ford. Call up might just be the move to make. Again, I just can't see us doing that right now. I don't think we need to make that move happen. But again, all possibilities are on the table. We'll see. We'll see if we're spenders or pretenders here 2 weeks after the All Star break.
No doubt, no doubt. And just an update, according to Spotrac, Cal Raleigh has 2.085 years of major league service. You need 6 years of major league service to become a true free agent. So he's still a pre-arb player, pre-arbitration that is. So the Mariners technically have him for 3 or 4 more seasons. I know it can be confusing with baseball contracts because you look and the first thing you look at might be 2023 pre-arb 1 year 758, and so Cal 3 year player basically, I would say. So we could easily have him for 3 more seasons, which is good for the Mariners but also good for trade bait. Everybody knows that the more years you're under contract, the more value you have. I just, I'm with RG, man. That clubhouse might get burned to the ground if they trade Cal, man. And so it's really tough one. I do think that everything's on the table. I've told fans this. I've debated with on different social media platforms because some fans want to sell. They just want to straight sell, and I tell them, do you really want to sell? Because if you want to sell, you trade Logan Gilbert and you trade George Kirby, because those two are easily the most valuable players on our team to the rest of the league. Then everyone gets pissed at me. Well, why would you do that? Well, I don't want to. Here's where I'm at, Archie, and I think you're probably the same. I don't want to be half stepping right now. Let's either do this thing or don't do this thing. But the half stepping Mariners, we've been doing that for 25 damn years. Let's at least pick a goddamn lane and go for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to get back to the American League Championship Series. I want to get back to that. I failed for two straight seasons. We had an opportunity to be able to do it. The 2000 season, 01, I thought was our time. 01, I thought was our time. And games 5 and 6 just still just feels I can feel the knife still from those two games. Uh, it's just interesting. It's just a really interesting time. It's a good time to be a Mariners fan. Again, it definitely feels like we're down right now when we're actually up, doing a lot better than what we should. With we're getting the best out of what we got, and I guess that's all you can ask for. Trade deadline is going to be very interesting, rapidly approaching. I guess the end of July will really be able to tell us where we're at. Hopefully, the way that the schedule is lined up, we have a chance to still be in the mix and compete with the big dogs. I'm trying to get in, taking a quick glance at what's coming up in front of us. We got we got San Diego for two starting on Tuesday. Then we're going to run down to Anaheim for four against the Angels before we get into the All Star break. Once we come out of the All Star break, will be the chance for us to try to see if we can put some distance in between us and Houston with a direct matchup. And the Angels come up to the Pacific Northwest. We take a trip to Chicago, followed by us entering into the trade deadline against the Red Sox up in Boston. Definitely some, excuse me, definitely some chance to have a couple get right games here in Anaheim. See if we can split with the Padres, get a series win while we're in Anaheim heading to the All Star break. I think that would be a great way for us to build some morale and change the momentum going into us going head up with Houston. Um, then from there, we got the Phillies coming in. One, if not Phillies, man, they might be tough. They might be your National League pennant winners right now. Then we got the Tigers and the Mets coming in. Then we head out to the Tigers. Then we'll get to go see that boy Sykes up there in Pittsburgh. Then the mighty Dodgers, the mighty Dodgers. So yeah, as we move forward, there's definitely not going to be a lot of gimmies as we go through, but we do end the year against the Yankees, the Rangers, the Astros, and the A's. So To me, I see we need to be able to do something. We need to be able to make a move because when those good teams are in that groove and the Yankees are going to be in a dogfight trying to get Baltimore up out of there, there's a lot of good teams that are going to be playing some really good baseball, and we're going to need to be able to compete offensively in the way that our offense struggles. We're not going to be able to limp in and sneak out a couple of those games. We need to be in a position where we can dominate. Right now, with our team built the way it is, I don't think we can.
It's a critical 6 game stretch to finish the first half before the All Star break. San Diego basically has the same record as us, same amount of wins. I believe two more losses or two less losses, something like that. Same amount of wins though. And then Anaheim, we know we gotta jump all over these damn Angels. I do not see any of those dudes in the outfield. I don't see Danny Glover, Christopher Lloyd, or Tony Danza up in this shit. We have to take care of business. Let's finish 4-2. As much as a downer the last 3 weeks have been, we know that this team can play good baseball, though. It's not that far behind us. The first 16 days in June, we went 12-4. Since the 16th of June, we've been 6-12. So it has been a Jekyll and Hyde act in the last month and a half or so. But it's really hard to believe when a team struggles at the dish so much. With the batting averages going down, I wouldn't be surprised to look tomorrow morning and see nobody's above 250. My God, what is going on with this world? But I know this team has the ability to play good baseball. RG, let's finish strong before the All-Star break.
Absolutely. I want to give a special shout out to the homeboy Tommy. He says, I'm glad I found this podcast. Makes baseball fun again for me, win or loss. Thank you guys. Happy to have you. Again, we're just passionate fans talking about the thing that we love in life, and that's the Seattle Mariner baseball and the baseball club and the program up there. And fans like you guys make it interesting, not just you who tap in with us on the live chat, but those of you who have helped get our download numbers up, those of you who have helped search, those of you who have gotten us over 100 subscribers on our Facebook page. Again, we just love talking sports. We love talking baseball, especially Mariner baseball. We just want to see this team succeed. We're not paid to be Mariner fans. We're not given a budget to talk to Mariners. Well, we're just passionate about Mariner baseball. And thank you guys for helping us be able to grow this format. And hopefully, there's better things to come. Also, don't forget, we're still in the middle of the Julio Rodriguez Funko giveaway. Just go and recommend us to 5 people on your Facebook page, and then that'll get you entered in to be able to win that thing. Is that it over your shoulder right there? Is that it over your shoulder, T Money? Yes,
Promote
sir.
us
Yes,
and we will
sir.
send this to you. Promote us and
Yeah,
we will send this to you.
yeah, man. Yeah, man. Just remember us. Just recommend us to 5 people. That'll get you entered in. We'll keep this thing rocking until the end of the trade deadline, and then we'll announce a winner and get that thing fired over to you. Mariners lifer. So I guess it's up to me to bring up that disgusting red thing in the corner. Look, man, our social media director happens to be from that nasty area up there, even has it tatted on her arm. And I believe the saying is happy wife, happy life. So in order for Tyler to keep peace at home, that thing has to be up there on the wall. As soon as he invites me over for dinner, I'm gonna go over there and knock that thing down. But don't tell her I said that.
It's real, man. So my wife, we both met in our 30s, but she grew up in Ohio, moved to Port Angeles Squim area when she was a teenager. So that's how it all came to be. But her whole family is Ohio State fans. Emmett Brown, that O is for the Ohio State. And I always kind of had a soft spot for them. Just go back to the 90s, the Seahawks spent a top 5 pick on Galloway, top 5 pick on Sean Springs. So I've always had a little bit of a soft spot, but there ain't no question for me. I'm Seattle teams all the way. It don't matter, and so, but yeah, RG hit it on the head, man. Sometimes compromise is part of life, and happy wife, happy life.
Man, yeah, man. I feel your pain. I feel your pain. So
Oh
yeah,
no, and
man.
hey, one quick one, Tommy. In this household and her family, we still call them the Indians, and I think me and RG kind of do too. But hey, man, Ricky Vaughn, Major League, little icons in the locker. Man, we can't look past that shit, bro.
You have no vamos. Vamos. Huevos.
Oh man.
Didn't want to get canceled. LOL. I missed the Kenny Lofton days, man. Kenny Lofton, shout out to him, man. One of the greatest to ever do it. Real good ball player. Real good ball player. Interesting times coming up for us Mariner fans. Again, grab you a Tylenol and an ibuprofen. You might need it. Keep your favorite drink handy. It's going to be very interesting as we continue to tread waters as we press towards this All-Star break. Ty, man, you know I love to let you get your shit off, man. What else is in that magical notebook we need to cover and go off?
You know, some weeks are more analytical. This one was a little bit more emotional. And I've been riding so high with the pitchers all year. We've basically tapped it out for now. We could nerd out on the month by month for every single guy, but that is just not good podcasting. Bottom line is the only guys that had good months in June was Canzone was pretty good and Rayleigh was really good. And however you want to dissect Mitch Garver, a 180 average and a 779 OPS. I don't even know how the hell that happens, but good for him.
Man, I'm telling you, man, that's Albuquerque for you. We gonna make a way out of no way. We gonna make a way out of no way. Vaden Podcast Services presents My Own Minds, another sports podcast coming to you live on Twitch and on YouTube each and every Sunday. We did have some technical difficulties. Our super producer, Indy, is traveling with his setup on the road. And man, if you could have seen the picture he set up, that dude is doing it big, carrying all that equipment with him to be able to make it happen. My day started extremely early this morning. Didn't think I was going to make it to Albuquerque to be able to even be a part of the live pod, but I'm here. I'm sorry for being a little droggy, but driving a truck isn't as easy as it seems, especially when you got to account for other people on the road who are trying to make decisions while you're trying to make decisions can make some things tough sometimes, but nevertheless, we in here. Don't forget to check us out on our socials at my oh my ASP. You can follow us on YouTube. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok. Ty has put together some pretty interesting content, especially a good breakdown of your man George Kirby and his pitches from a game he recently went to. Don't forget, we are in the middle of the giveaway where if you help us spread the word about this podcast, we got that Julio Rodriguez Funko that we can't wait to ship out to you and yours from where to wherever you're following from, whoever you're listening with. Don't forget, if you can't join us live each and every Sunday, the episodes are available to download off of Apple Podcasts and Spotify or wherever you get your favorite podcast from. Normally by Tuesday, whenever Indy can make us to make us mixed up and make us sound as professional as we can. For all of you rocking with us in the chat, again, we're so happy to have you. It's growing. We thank you all for being a part of it. If it wasn't for you all commentating and giving us things to talk about as well too, you know, this interaction, there's nothing about when fans get together, be able to talk about our ups and downs together. Hopefully Julio gets out of his Funko. Absolutely, man. Not only him, but a couple other people as well too. I'm talking to you, Mr. Polanco. Absolutely. Again, that's my man Ty Talks 24, our super producer Indy, right holding us down while he's on vacation as well too. Be sure to check him out on his music page, Death to Indy, on YouTube. A big shout out to our social media director, Katie Matsumoto, Miss Darby holding it down as well as far as Vaden Podcast Services go. That's your man Ty Talks 24. I'm your boy RG. We'll see you next Sunday again for another episode of My Oh My. It's another sports podcast.